Welcome to the Man Up or Shut Up show, where four men unite in search of the truth. Feelings will be hurt. Talk to your doctor to see if this information is right for you.
All right. Thank you for joining us for another special episode. We're I guess this is going to be episode 2 of our specials. We'll try to do them at least once a year. Probably roughly around November, although you probably won't see it until December if I had to guess. But there's a bunch of stuff that happened. But before we get to that, I want to introduce everyone. We have Peter.
Hello.
Yes, that's nice. Dimitri.
Hello.
Even better. Tony, you guys have seen him from the last one.
Yep.
And then we have another one, which is Ruslan. These two are my brothers. If the family resemblance doesn't show, that's what it is, and yay. Anyway, so a couple of things have happened in the recent months. We had a bunch of strikes, we had some warnings, and then they decided they just didn't like us enough, so they kicked us off of YouTube altogether. Now, we're not ones to give up, so we're going to make another YouTube channel, and we're going to call it something. We'll find out what we're going to call it. We have a walk and talk that I did say a few names. It might be that, it might not be. Who knows? We'll find out. And I might not post that on YouTube because I don't want them finding out. But please follow us on Rumble. Please subscribe and all that other fun stuff. We don't have as much people here because this is a platform that we were doing as a secondary. And honestly, I kind of want to do this as a first and then YouTube as a secondary from now on. Yeah. We still have the podcast that we post. So if you can't get us on YouTube, you should be able to find us on Apple. If you go Man Up or Shut Up, you'll find us on Apple Podcasts. So, please join us, listen to us, like, subscribe, review, all that fun stuff. If you don't like us, go watch someone else. I'm sure there's plenty of pink-haired feminists that you can listen to. All right. So with that in mind, we just decided we wanted to do a, fast or slow or long or short, I'm not sure. We'll see, episode today.
Special edition.
Yes, special edition episode 2. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Today our topic is going to be a little fluid like your mom. I'm joking. No, that was a terrible joke. The point is, we're gonna talk about a specific topic, but if we decide to change topics, that's totally okay. So one of the things we wanted to talk about is we are all Christians. Every single one of us here believes the Bible. We are very strong about that. We've always talked about that in the show. At the end of the day, we might not agree on everything, but there is one thing that ties us all together. It's that we're all Christian. One of the topics that came up was divorce and what we think about it. So we have a person who most of us actually respect, or to an extent respect, right? So he's done a lot of good things that I personally like and personally agree with. His name is Ken Hovind. So he's basically a creationist or evolutionist. He basically argues or debates people who believe in evolution, and he backs the Bible about everything. And for that aspect, I really respect him, and I really like his position on all of this stuff. Yeah. So, but there is one really glaring thing that's made people dislike him a lot. It's that he's on his 4th marriage. That means he's been divorced multiple times. Just like anything else, there's, situations that cause this to happen. What we want to talk about is what we think about it, what the Bible thinks about it, how we look at it. And at the end of the day, we're all guys, so don't misunderstand this. At the end of the day, we're against abortion, or not abortion, or against that too.
What?
But we're against.
We're actually
divorce.
for abortion.
No.
You gotta watch our previous video to find out.
Yeah, watch the why I'm pro-choice and pro-abortion. We're against divorce. It's just that simple. But we want to talk about what we think about this specific scenario. And also, some people have all sorts of reasons why they divorced, right? And we also understand the human element. So, it's a bit of a muggy topic, but at the same time, I and most of us will go back to the Bible, which says, what does the Bible say?
Yeah. And obviously you guys are not married,
yes.
but it's good to always prepare yourself and have these things, because like in Russia, in Russia or in Ukraine, and there's a popular saying that says it's very difficult in practice, but then it's easy at war, during war, So basically, when you're still in the training, you're still practicing, it's very difficult, and you're forcing yourself to kind of learn certain things, but then when finally battle comes or war comes, then you're like, you already got these, you're prepared for it.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, and then it seems like war is much easier then, because you've already prepared for it. Not that marriage is a war, but it can resemble sometimes things, because the husband and wife, they're battling. But before we get into that, I think it would be kind of a good idea to have our new guest, Ruslan, kind of the question that we asked everybody, that we asked Antoni last time, and we asked everybody else. We went through this, but like, according to your understanding or definition, what is a man? I know it's you. I know that you maybe watched. I don't know if you watched the documentary "What Is a Woman." Have you watched that yet?
I haven't watched it, but obviously it's...
But yeah, so so that one's like, there's a documentary, What is a Woman? That's actually a pretty good documentary to watch. Pretty interesting. But we ask everybody, what is a man in your definition? What defines a man, or how should a man be, and how should a man act, and kind of like overall, what kind of characteristics you think defines a man, except for his pee-pee?
Except for his... Oh, pee-pee. Okay. I'm like, pee-pee, peanut butter? Yeah, so I guess I'd probably have to, scientifically you could look at it more from the XY chromosome aspect. But I assume you mean a little deeper than just physical.
Yeah, like characteristics.
Which I'm not... There's
physical.
a characteristic of who a man should strive to be, I feel like.
Yeah.
Versus, obviously, just because a woman has those characteristics doesn't make her a man. What makes her a woman is her biology. But those characteristics that we look for in a strong man, I do believe is illustrated in the Bible. So I base it off of my understanding of the Bible, as well as, I suppose, who I look up to. So like when I see strong men in my life, it's like, okay, what do I strive to be? That's kind of what I guess I envision as this is what a man is. And I think the best thing is the concept of trying to pursue something that is basically a perfect image, even though you'll never achieve that perfect image. I don't think there's any man on earth currently, except for Jesus, that ever truly achieved the perfect image of what a man should be.
Yeah.
I forget who said it. I think it was Jordan Peterson, but it's like this concept of power under control. Mm-hmm. So it's like you have a lot of potential and capacity and capability, but it's under control. You're not just emotionally reacting to everything, and you pop off on this person, pop off on that person, mm-hmm. and then you go cry in a corner or something. Like, there's
stable, right?
Yeah, there's a stability there. There's a stoicism there. But there's also, I think, a good man, a strong man, also does have a caring element to him too. I think Jesus illustrated that. Jesus cared for his disciples. Jesus cared enough about the world, about the people in his flock, that he went as far as to die for them. So there's also that element to it. If I would really try to summarize it, I would say it's mostly following the image that the Bible has laid down for us. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would probably basically wrap it up with that.
That's awesome. Very
good answer.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of similarly gave similar answers, except for we talked about a little more minutia, like getting married, making sure that you're providing for your family, for your whatever. But at the end of the day, what did we all say? It's Jesus, right? Jesus is our ultimate everything, always. And when we first started the show, we were leaning more towards like politics, and then I realized as like time went on, I care less about politics than I care about what I believe. So it's like slowly but surely we've kind of switched where we're kind of like in this in between where we talk about politics, but we talk about politics from what we see from the Christian perspective and for what we see from the biblical perspective, which is why we end up bringing this up over and over and over again.
Right. Politics basically come from your belief system. Whatever you believe determines how you're going to behave, how you're going to vote, how you're going to do anything. In your job, in your career, whatever. In the family, whatever your foundation is, whatever your beliefs are, is going to roll over into the way you act, the way you think the government should be ran. It's kind of hard to separate those things. Right. They're literally one.
So, Dimitri, give us a rundown of what happened with Kent Hovind, like why he's on his fourth wife. Basically, tell us the whole story. Yeah. So like everyone knows who's.
So there's a lot of people that make negative videos about Dr. Kent Hovind. There's respected pastors and respected leaders that they're like, well, I'm not going to let my kids watch his stuff anymore, and I think that's foolish, in a way to say that. Basically, based, it's okay to show your kids, where this person is, went wrong or where things lacked, and it's a kind of a good thing for you to explain these things, so your kids do not ever make an idol of anybody for themselves, or they don't it's even important for your kids to talk to your kids, and so they actually see your mistakes. They see you as a parent constantly developing into a better person. You're trying to move up, because if you set the standard for your kids, like I am this perfect person, you need to do everything as I do, and then your kids will see your flaws. They'll see what you're doing wrong, and this idol mentality you're trying to build, or this idol image you're trying to build in your kids' eyes, they'll look and they'll get discouraged in you as a parent, because we all have sinned and fell short of the glory of God. So I see a lot of people attacking Dr. Hovind to the point where they're like, nothing he says is right anymore, because of his marriage issues. And this is just an example. I guess we're just going to use this as an example. This is not the Dr. Hovind discussing his life show, digging through his trash.
Right.
This is more just as like an intro to kind of in general, our thoughts of this whole what happens, why people get divorced, but what happened with Dr. Hovind, as much as I understand, I have never talked to his wife personally and all this, but as general, because of what happened with him, because he was going in his ministry and all this, and he was trying to do things according to his understanding and knowledge, and that the government did not agree with. They wanted to put him away, so they put him away, and as a result, since his wife, she's in the ministry with him, they gave her some prison time as well. She didn't like that very much, and once she got out of prison and he got out of prison, as far as I understand, he was given pretty much an ultimatum to, pretty much just calm down, just stop doing ministry, just do things very on a small scale, lightly, all this, and just kind of fade out slowly, but he wants to continue, and he wants to justify, everything that's been done to him was wrong and everything like that. So he didn't want to give up. So he had a choice between, fading out of everybody's eyes and knowledge versus, losing his family and continuing in his ministry. And he said that's a very tough decision for him. He seems like he said he feel like he would die inside if he just would basically just stop, trying to build ministry and do that. So obviously in that situation, things didn't go very well, and his wife's like, well, I'm not going to prison anymore, so therefore it's over. So I don't know exactly how it happened, but yeah, and then he got remarried to another woman who had another ministry, and she's a strong, independent woman doing her ministry, and he's this strong, independent guy. It's something that all men should be, building his own ministry. And I guess, there were a lot of misunderstanding there. I heard that there's like some death threats that were coming his way or whatever, and his wife's like, oh, I don't want part of this, So she left. Another lady who came in, the third wife she came into be, she had I guess some emotional issues. I guess she wanted a little more attention from Dr. Cahoven, more than what he could provide for her, because he's very focused on the ministry. He's looking for somebody to run with him, like in a pack, kind of that kind of deal. And maybe, as a natural rule, men are not as emotional as women. They don't need as much emotional attention. Like when men are all about produce, acquire, and obviously in those kind of situations, the men are not always able to give their wife as much attention as they maybe should. So I don't know. I guess there were some emotional things there, and I guess his wife couldn't handle it or whatever. And then the fourth marriage seems like he found himself a good submissive wife that's willing to run with him and just help him out with building his ministry and all this. And I know that in the Bible that does says that the wife is the helper of a man. So, this world is built by men. Cars, men. Phones, men. Houses, men. Skyscrapers, airplanes. Everything is built by men. And if everything, all of this stuff was built by men, and if they were just sitting trying to always, be there for their wife 24/7, most of the stuff that we have today probably would not be built, So this is a natural thing of men. Obviously, we need to learn how to control this stuff, So to wrap this all up, basically, there's this conflict. These are the natural conflicts that often happen, where there's, the wife wants the attention, the husband, he's trying to build something, and then, so this is kind of why it works, but the Bible does say it's not good for a man to be alone. So what do? You get divorced, things didn't go well, you try your best, I don't know all the details, but in general, okay, it happened. Divorce has happened. What do? Do you stay alone and, set yourself up for, fornication or adultery, or, be able to burn, it says it's better to get married than to burn with passion, so because we have this natural desire to be fruitful and multiply, just like we have a desire to eat and other desires, so this is something that it's like supposed to be contained in a safe environment where you're just sharing with one person, and that's it, But this is kind of a general run through according to my limited knowledge of everything that happened. But I think it's foolish to shut Dr. Cahoven off based off of his marriage, because if we base it off of that, we'd need to pretty much shut off King David, Maybe we should rip out the pages in the Bible that King David mentioned all his psalms, like, I spit on the psalms. Yeah. He got married many times.
Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah, wisdom of Solomon.
Now just don't listen to it. Don't read that part of the Bible. There's a lot of parts of the Bible that you basically not be even reading if we're judging according to that standard.
Especially since those experiences that they had were a direct example of things we can learn. I mean, like Solomon, when he proceeds to talk about things in Ecclesiastes, you can see how he seems to most have that perception, just like, it's probably better just to have one wife and to just love her and appreciate her. There's a fruit of the negative experience that taught them something.
I find it very interesting that people, especially Christians in particular, they tend to pile on someone's sin. Mm-hmm. When the fact of the matter is that we're all sinners. The Bible literally tells you that from the very beginning. So I will use the same phrase that I loved, and it's from Cahoven. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Mm-hmm. Now, in the whole entire time I've heard about this, I don't think he's ever condoned what he's done. He doesn't condone getting married multiple times. He doesn't condone doing any of that.
Yeah.
From our perspective, all of us want to be married once, never, ever have any kind of problems, and stick with the one.
Once married, always married.
Yeah, once married, always married. That is way better. That mindset is way better than any mindset I've ever seen. My parents were married once, and then my dad unfortunately passed away early. But I know for a fact they were never planning to leave each other. I know your parents are the same exact way.
Exactly.
The fact of the matter is if you read the Bible, that's exactly how we're meant to be.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, there are situations where things just go awry or they go a different way. And to me, it's very unfortunate. I mean, obviously, I'm not married. And I preference this always, is the fact is that because I'm not married, I cannot say how hard or how easy someone gets or has it. I understand that in the moment, sometimes it's easier for you to just say, forget it all. Yeah. I'm done.
Yeah, it's easier to give up.
But the Bible does say, husbands, love your wives. Love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Exactly.
And that's a commandment.
Yes, exactly.
Not a feeling.
So the way it works is you, regardless of how you feel day to day, you are commanded to love your wife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, with Dr. Kent Hovind's scenario, where his wife gives him an ultimatum where he's either they're going to stick together or, and he drops everything, or, she leaves him. Mm-hmm. In a sense, he was being selfish, to be fair. He was. I mean, his selfishness went as far as, I feel like I'm going to die if I stop doing what I'm doing. But she was also being selfish. That was a two-way street, like where she's like, okay, well, I'm not willing to give this much for your ministry. Yeah. Which, unfortunately, is how life works sometimes. Sometimes you run into an issue where, you have to make a very hard decision. Do I stop what I'm doing, whatever it is, even if it's good for the ministry, whether it's good for God, and then I proceed to walk away from it all because my wife just doesn't like it? Or do I, say, forget it, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do? Because, so many people listen to his sermons. So many people have listened to his creationist seminars. Yep. And people have changed minds and people have been saved.
Yeah.
I feel like in that situation, it's not very logical to throw too much blame on Kent. If that, I assume you probably heard the story from Kent himself, right?
Yeah.
So assuming he presented it truthfully, I would not throw too much blame on him because he's doing, as far as I can tell, what he was called to do. It's like I haven't heard the creationist argument as well as I've heard it from Kent. Yeah. So it's not fair to throw away basically what a perfect will, no, this person belongs here. Yeah. Versus if she came in and she gave that ultimatum and she says, oh, I will not support you in your ministry. Yeah. She's the one who started that divorce. I don't believe that it's fair to blame him in that situation. The fact that it's happened 4 times is crazy. I think or is he on his 4th wife?
Yeah, 4. So
it's
3 times.
So it happened 3 times.
Yeah.
Is crazy, but at the same time, I also understand that if you got divorced, you're probably going to marry a divorced person. Yeah. And if you marry a divorced person, you have entered into the area of people who have the mentality of, I don't want to stick this through.
Yep. Yeah. Things get hard and you drop it.
If that door exists for you now, this is why one of the reasons, it's like I remember hearing this at a wedding I went to. When I was still a teenager or something, and they said the word divorce or that should not even be in your not even jokingly. You're like, oh, I'll leave you if you do this. joke, poke. Yeah. That's not even shouldn't even be in a joke. That door shouldn't even exist. But we live in a time when divorce is so easy. like before you'd have to come in front of a judge. I don't know, like I think like prior to 1960s, or I don't remember when it was, but in America, if your husband and wife wanted to get divorced, they come in front of a judge. He'd hear both sides, and then he would actually decide if he would even allow somebody to get divorced. Which was a very good thing. But right now, divorce is so easy, and unfortunately, inside the church, Christians, now it's like, that door sort of exists there, and I know it's very easy to do. And once somebody have done it once, it's a lot easier to do it again and again, especially when people get older and their ways are so set. They don't have as much flexibility or willingness to submit or to one another or to kind of give grace to each other. What's your thoughts on Tony? You're a bit quiet. I know you have lots of wisdom boiling in there. I see steam coming through your ears.
Well, I think the thing that I can kind of, I guess, speak a little bit about is we've touched a little bit on it already, but I guess try to put it a little bit more concise, a little bit more clearly. The aspect of, I've heard Romans say this a couple of times before, but where we basically put a person on a pedestal, more or less, specifically like a man of God, typically whenever with Christians, we usually put somebody on a pedestal, and then when the guy himself ends up not being perfect, just to make it a little bit easier just saying that, and he falls, he has sin or anything like that, suddenly it's like all of us just go, hey, this guy's he's talking about, let's go
crucify him.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm just like thinking like, look, I get the aspect that some people don't necessarily have the patience to deal with these types of people, and I would say that's wrong. I would say that everyone should have grace for these types of people, because you yourself also fall short for it. But just because, and also this still touches upon what Roman said about where you eat the meat, spit out the bones, just like that, there's also, the same thing applies to even people as well in general, The person itself has a lot of wisdom that he can give, a lot of, teaching that he can also give you. Just because he's not perfect itself does not necessarily mean that, you should just cut him off altogether. Dr. Ken Hovind himself has a lot of things that he can teach people, a lot of things that he can set people straight on, Yeah. Just like how everyone has their shortcomings. Like we've spoken about, like, not just Ken Hovind, but we've also spoken like people like, Christian Prince. We also know about, Steven Anderson, and, just general people that have, a lot more knowledge in specific areas,
Yeah.
So like Dr. Ken Hovind is good with, the
Creation
science and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, science and whatnot. It's very, very. He's a very well-informed man with that. We look at like somebody like Christian Prince. I have not known him for too long, honestly. You guys just literally introduced him not too long ago. But from what I've seen so far and what I've heard, he's a very knowledgeable man when it comes down to like how to disprove, Islam.
Yep.
With all the stuff that he does. So he might not have like I'm not sure, I don't know much about this basically, but if I had to throw it out, maybe he might not have as much knowledge about what the Bible would basically say as concrete as like Steven Anderson, for instance.
Yeah.
So everyone has a shortcoming, but each person can teach something concrete there,
And I'm willing to bet that both Christian Prince and Pastor Steven Anderson and other pastors, they also might sin once in a while. Somewhere, somehow.
I mean, if they didn't, the Bible would be a liar, right?
If we
all have sinned and
So
fallen
technically we
short
should
of the
listen
glory
to
of God.
anybody then, if we go by that
Crucify
standard.
all of
Because
them.
we're all sinners.
Wait, crucify me too.
And just like you guys also were talking about with, the story of David,
Yeah.
that is something that you can basically still learn from nonetheless.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we know that there have been times in the Bible where men, great men have sinned and fallen, for this or that. But we can also learn from that too and be like, look, these great people had this kind of sin.
Yep.
So when you have something like this as well, I understand that it's still bad, but don't beat yourself up too much. Stand back up and move on again. Yep. I guess as Christians, a lot of Christians would say, stand back up and carry the cross with him as well.
Yeah.
My big thing is basically about justifying your sin, rather than acknowledging that you stepped in a pile of crap.
Yep.
You start saying, no, it's actually not that bad. I recommend you guys stepping on this crap too. It's pretty nice,
It's honestly...
So basically, that's where it becomes a big deal. And then you need to be publicly shamed for that, you know?
Yeah, it's honestly a very fine line between like justifying it and knowing that, like I said before, you know, when you look at these great men and you see that they've fallen or they've come short of this or that, you know, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, since he did it, it's okay if I do it. It's like, no, that's not what it is.
Exactly.
It is. It's a fine line between the two where you basically look at somebody that's great and being like, oh, well, he fell, so that means I could fall too, and it won't be a problem. Versus actually looking at it and be like, okay, he fell, I fell as well, but in the end, we still know that we both did wrong, you know, but we will still try to find that line again of good and just walk that line.
Like Jesus Christ, he came from the tribe of Judah, right? So basically, Jacob's son, Judah, you know, so Jesus came from tribe of Judah, also came from through David, through King Solomon. King Solomon basically was born, you know, out of King Solomon was actually born out of adultery, basically. Everything okay?
Just no. Just
Hold on, guys. We got some technical difficulties.
glitch.
So how are you guys doing? While we're waiting.
Yeah, that's all you would have technically.
It's all good.
It's fine. We can do another clap.
We can, or we can keep talking because this is reality, and sometimes in life everything's not perfect and polished, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we had a few technical difficulties. It happens. You know, like last time, our cameraman fell asleep. This time, my computer fell asleep. So, you know.
Someone's always falling asleep.
Yeah, someone falls
I'm
asleep.
pretty sure somebody's watching this, falling asleep.
Oh, you that bored?
Hey, you know what? If they fall asleep and hear this subliminally, great. I mean, then maybe they'll learn something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were talking about Solomon and other stuff, right? So,
Yeah, I was just saying that. So Jesus basically came through the tribe of Judah, and Judah, he literally went to sleep with a prostitute.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and obviously that's something that horrible he did. That's not a good thing, and it ended up not being a prostitute. It ended up being you know, his wife. Yeah, basically, he was supposed to, you know, so because he didn't want to give her children, all this, but basically, so you know, he actually went to a prostitute. And like, imagine, you know, something happened where one of the people we are listening, like Dr. Cahoven, instead of getting married, he started going to prostitutes. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, I'm only been married once, but I'm going to prostitutes, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
So he never got married again, but he's quietly going to prostitutes.
Yeah, so Jesus was still born through that lineage, you know.
Was it his wife? I thought it was like his daughter-in-law or something like that. Basically, that he was trying to pass on to. Just wanted to make sure that.
I think it was the daughter-in-law.
Yeah, it was that.
He was trying to pass that off to his son, basically.
Well, yeah, they were technically. I think it was a work in progress. It was not like cemented in yet. I do remember.
But his intention was to sleep with a prostitute.
That's
the main point. So like, God, don't even know Bible, you know.
Well, somebody out there is gonna say that, like, shh, you guys are talking all this stuff. You guys don't even know the Bible.
Go read the Bible. You know.
Yep.
Turn it off.
But yeah, so basically the point is that you know, everybody sins. The main thing is not to sugarcoat sin, and this is why, you know, a lot of people get on us like, oh, once saved, always saved. That means you can go and just sin whatever. You're like, no, we don't believe that. I believe that God harshly punishes his children for sinning. Yep. And, you know, and once you understand that thing, once you understand, you know, God's grace, you know, you tend to even get more stricter on sin. But
and also like John 14, like today I was reading that, it talks about how, like, if you love God, you will follow his commandments. Like, at the end of the day, you will try your very best. We are saved through grace, by faith. That is absolutely true. But if you don't love God, did you ever truly believe that you were saved through grace? I mean, this becomes a fine line where I'm not the judge, I'm not the jury. I can just tell you, you know, believe it in your heart, you know, and say it, and you will be saved. But then what's really on the inside of you, that's up to you.
Yeah. And
But-
some people even do it applying the Dr. Jehovah's like, I don't even know if he's saved now, because he got remarried for the fourth time. Yeah, so he's married on his fourth wife, and now people are already trying to say that they don't even know if he's married, if he's saved because he's on his fourth wife.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people, for example, Donald Trump, they don't like as well. So they'll find something about them that they don't like, and even though they're standing for amazing things, helping out, changing the world, but then they find the sin, and then all of a sudden they just disregard them.
Right. I mean, and it's easy to do that because of the fact that, again, the Bible is very hard on sin.
Yeah,
As,
and it's good.
And that's exactly what we want to be. We want to be hard on sin.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we overdo it, sometimes we...
Exactly.
No. Sometimes we overdo it to the point where, someone has done a lot of wonderful things. Someone has evangelized to so many people. Someone has changed the mindset of so many people because they were biblically accurate.
Yep.
And then we get hung up on their thorn or their little what is it called? A little
Ruslan knows. What is it?
No.
You were trying to say the whole thorn in the flesh, probably. As like
No.
The thing in your eye?
Yeah.
the mote in the eye.
Yeah. The moat. Is that what it's called?
Log and moat.
Yeah. So.
The
Yeah,
beam.
so we see a mote in someone's eye and we don't realize we have a log, because it's not just that. I mean, there's pride, there's anger, there's lust, there's jealousy, there's so many other things that we do as humans, and we do them over and over and over again, and then we proceed to pretend like none of that really matters. Yeah. Now, to be fair, and I cannot stress this enough. I do believe that if you have a pastor who then proceeds to cheat on his wife, gets remarried, I don't know that they should be in the pastoral role. Like that's the Bible actually talks against that. Yeah. So I'm not saying that if you guys have a pastor who's now proceeded to cheat or get remarried, and I don't think you should be really for that. And he probably stops talking about that.
Well, the Bible is pretty clear on that guy should not. He should not be in a position of pastor.
He should step down as pastor.
There is a. We all try to give grace to each other as much as possible. It says if your brother is in sin, and then you go and warn him and he does not listen, and then you get, a witness, you go two people, warn your brother or whatever, and they refuse to change and they refuse to repent. Eventually, you kind of just want to distance yourself away from him so he does not affect other people in your flock or whatever, because you don't want that bad leaven to spread amongst yourself, so you kind of consider them as a heathen, you don't even want to sit down and to eat with them, if somebody's promoting sin or anything. But if we need to understand that, we all have the understanding of perfection. We are created in the image of God. God gave us a conscience, and His law is written on our hearts. We have the law that we can look into.
But still, dude, you should also build on that nonetheless. Even though, let's just say somebody does leave, and make sure that it is, we all are aware that if they ever do get back to how the righteous path itself would be, that we welcome them and we basically forget all the previous stuff that they had. Yeah. So let's just say now you have a friend that's maybe a fornicator, just slept around and whatnot, but eventually he got married. At that point, you can invite him back in, everything's all good, and you forget about all those past attempts, or all those previous fornication things. Simplest way you could just forget and move on, Yeah. You don't want to keep bringing it back up and kind of just keep jabbing him with a knife.
That time. You're using it against them the rest of their life. Yeah.
You're not perfect, remember?
Well,
and I remember you're not perfect either. Ow. Well, I'll hit you even harder.
Well, I think it's funny because that is how it works, isn't it? We're quick to forgive ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But very very hard for us to forgive anyone else. Yeah. It's like, oh well, remember they failed that one time. Oh yeah, how many times have you failed today alone?
Yeah.
How many times did you think something you shouldn't have? Yeah. How many times did you snap at your wife today? Did you snap at your brother today? Did you snap at your sister today? That's not great. You really shouldn't be doing that.
Exactly.
Oh, you did.
snapped at me this morning.
I know, right?
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's an example, right?
Yeah.
Like where we all try to strive to be good and try to strive to fulfill the commandments,
Yeah.
knowing full well we will fail, because not only does it say so in the Bible,
Yeah.
multiple times, you can see it in your own life.
Yeah. We'll never reach perfection. Basically,
Yep.
why we're perfect is through Jesus. Through Jesus.
Yeah.
Through His blood.
So now we have to talk about the ones who say, okay, well, if we're never going to reach perfection, why even try? That's another one of those arguments we've probably heard so many times. I've heard it. I've heard it multiple times. We have aunts and uncles who are very stuck in condemnation through sin kind of mindset, where they believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins, right? But they believe that they're condemned through their sin, right? And then they'll proceed to say
Works-based salvation or sin or condemnation through sin, basically same thing. Yeah.
Sin-based damnation or something.
Yeah. Yep. We have those. But I also think it's very important for, as you guys can see, this is the second time we have this kind of a meeting where like all us men get together, having a yearly, and I think it's very important for guys to sometimes take a small vacation with a good group of people, not like, it's good to once in a while, guys just kind of separate themselves and take a vacation. We have some people that judge us because of this. But if you're getting together with God-fearing men who are striving to get better and get closer to God, it's a good thing to once in a while have like a man retreat. Because where you can openly discuss certain things with each other, what everybody's kind of going through, we kind of support everything, support each other, or at least, through, you kind of find out that you're all quietly kind of going through a very similar thing. Because most men, they're so divided and they're so alone, and men are just taught to just kind of hold everything inside. Like, for example, Dr. Calhoun, I don't know how many people he has that he can share his heart with, or because the entire world is on each man's shoulders. The man knows he has to protect his family, feed his kids, put a roof over their head, help basically make sure they're educated, make sure nobody harms them, make sure that kind of has to keep an eye out, what's going on in politics and all this other stuff, and a man is never allowed to show any weakness and cry and all this, and we're all for man being very masculine and strong, but I think there's a lot more strength in an army, of like-minded men who prioritize the Bible and who are basing their understanding of everything based on the Bible, the Word of God. I know we kind of touched a little on this, but so like why it's important for men to kind of have these retreats, not to have a retreat and just do retarded things, because there's a lot of men who do seek to fulfill the lusts and desires of their flesh, but instead these should be more like, how do we properly control and properly direct the strength that we have, the capabilities that God gave us, and so I think this is something that is a positive thing, that men kind of have these kind of retreats.
I still think we should answer the question of where people say, well, why should I even try?
Why should you even try? Well, basically, it's like if I take a shower and I'm going to get dirty again, why should I even take showers?
Right. Yeah. And I mean that is a very good analogy of life, right? I mean, we're all going to get eventually dirty. But you take a shower because you understand that no one likes you being dirty.
It's a slippery slope. It's like if you allow yourself to kind of sin, eventually sin will destroy you, and you often will take other people along with you.
And because you love Jesus, it's almost like, well, if you're going to be your parents' kid, regardless if you are nice or not nice to them, like, why try? Why not just be a jerk and Well, because if you actually love, you know, you want to show your appreciation and love to the Father, you will keep my commandments. You know, so you will do these things. It's not you're doing that because it's going to earn you your salvation. You're doing it because you love God. You know, the same thing. You treat your parents and your friends nice because that means something to them. You know,
Maybe even another two types of things. Did you want to say something as well?
No, you could go first.
So basically, one of which is a lot of people have a lot of respect for Paul, right? And Paul himself said, you know, how does he say? He's like, do we sin for the sake of grace? God forbid. I might be misquoting that. I know I am. But
so
there was that.
So we sin on purpose
Yes.
for grace to be revealed, basically, so to just show how much grace God has, I don't know, but in those kind of terms.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be one of the, reasons. Some people, you know, basically go out and they say, well, I really respect Paul. You know, he has done this, he's accomplished all of this, and this is also a man that, which I guess is technically speaking the exception to, remember when I was talking about how a man should be married on the previous thing?
Yeah.
He would be the exception to that because he is not married, but I would still consider him a man, you know?
Yeah.
He knew how to take care of a lot of people. He showed that he basically he acted like a dad to a lot of other guys as well. He even said stuff like, you know, I've sired, was it Onesimus? I forget exactly what some of the names, but there have been times where he basically has, been treated, or he was acting like a father figure to a lot of these churches, a lot of these people. But anyway, so because of that, a lot of people had a lot of respect for him. So because of that, people put him on a pedestal, which is fine as long as you accept that, you know, he's not perfect either. And he himself has made it very clear that he was not. Yep. So because his word carried so much weight, sometimes people took some of his commandments to be, you know, well, a lot of times people took his commandments to be very, something that you have to basically follow, and one of which was what we just talked about. Yeah. And now the other aspect as well as to why you do not want to sin is maybe make it very straightforward. Like, you know, God is your father, you are the son, and you are like a child to him. If a child does something stupid, you know, and the father sees this, he's going to make sure that, you know, you learn your lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes you might not, and you might be that unruly child that just needs to keep getting a beating, you know?
Yeah, and the good, healthy fear of God. That's
do you want your life to be miserable? Is that basically what, you know, is going through your head? Like, oh yeah, no, we should just...
Yeah, suppose your wife, she said, no matter what, I will never leave you. You know, since we're speaking on divorce, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if your wife made that promise and you just knew that she's never going to leave you no matter what, does that mean you're just going to automatically just let yourself go, become like an obese, lazy guy who just laying there, just doing nothing, you know, covering themselves with basically the blanket because there's no clothes that fits you anymore, you know, and then eventually you lose your house and everything else. Like, well, you said you're never going to leave me, so I'm going to put that to the test. Right. So this is the exact same thing. Like, well, if you're saved by grace alone, not the works, why even try? It's like, do you absolutely? Are you craving to be an absolute? Are you craving to be an absolute sinful piece of garbage? You know, it's like, are you like a swine that's just looking at that dirt and going?
Then you might be just be a reprobate. You know,
and you know what's interesting is that, like, you know, there's even a lot of atheists nowadays who will like admit that the Christian lifestyle is like literally the best. Yeah, because of the fact that they tend to have more successful marriages. They tend to have a more healthy lifestyle.
Happier marriage.
They have happier marriages. Yeah. I mean, happier lifestyle too. Like it just overall, you're more fulfilled. Mm-hmm. It's healthier. Yeah, you're better.
Like, for example, none of us have AIDS.
I know, right?
There's like natural punishment that comes along.
Because you're still gonna. Oh yeah, because you're still gonna get punished on this earth. You know, you have the eternal salvation, right? Yeah. But it doesn't mean you're not gonna get some spankings on this earth.
Yeah, you can have some terrible years. Like what's his name? Remember, he's like, God, can you give me another? You know, can you give me more time? God gave him more time. He should have just left 10 years prior to that. And then, like, things just keep happening one thing after another.
So Hezekiah.
Yeah, God gave him like extra 15 years, but he ended up like screwing up like really bad over the 15 years. But yeah, that's hilarious stuff.
Yeah, but you know, it's a nice little topic, and it's also a nice little reminder to us that none of us are perfect. And also, sometimes you have to be able to still understand and still be able to take something from someone. Now, if they're terrible on doctrine, and plus they're just a terrible person, yeah, keep your kids away from them. You know, I there are some examples. Unfortunately, I'm going to say a name, Joel Osteen. He's not very biblically accurate. He will twist the Bible to meet his own needs.
He's a motivational speaker. He only cares about sharing what the Bible says if he can twist it to something that sounds very pretty.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, he won't call out sin. He'll just tell you how great of a person you are, which is not helping you. It's not helping anyone else.
His church is something more like, you go to his church, let's say, for 10 years, your Bible knowledge is not going to increase. It's not going to grow at all.
Yeah.
You're just going to leave that church, or you're going to, after 10 years, you'll just like know about positive thinking, you know, that eventually God will help you financially, and God will have your favor in his mind all the time. You know, things are supposed to work out really good if you do things correctly.
Some people it will work out well. Other people, they'll just sit there and they'll torture through it for years and feel like their lives never got better, and then they'll end up hating Christianity because their life never got better.
Yeah.
I thought God promised me a happy, healthy, wealthy life.
Exactly.
And because they never built their foundations on the Word, which is, again, the Bible, which is very important for Christianity, that's a problem. That's why, like, personally, I would say stay away from Joel Osteen, personally, because he doesn't teach the Bible enough.
Yeah.
Go to a church that's very biblically accurate.
Yeah.
If you're an atheist, watch someone who's very biblically accurate.
Yep.
And Steven Anderson. I know a lot of people hate him.
Yep.
But he's very biblically accurate.
Yep.
It's just that simple. Anyway, on that note, I think, you know, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for, you know, showing up. And hopefully you made it all the way through to the end. We are going to be posting this on there with another video on Rumble. And when we do get another YouTube channel, hopefully you will find us and subscribe to us there too. We thank you so much. Again, we're just going to sign off from me and everyone else here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.